I'll yield the rest of our time to my good friend Eric Brown to speak much more eloquently to the issue than I can. But basically, it's a ballot measure that was brought forth by the people, paid for by the people, to put a ballot measure on the ballot during this election cycle to hang or to present inside the council chambers in God We Trust, the nation's motto, right? It's on our money. Most city councils, almost all bodies of government open their sessions with an invocation. It's a part of our tradition, it's a part of our heritage, and I'm in favor of the ballot measure.
I'll just pick up, since you put so many issues together, it's interesting to me, but it's also difficult for us to argue because we're trying to argue on legitimate points of law that have profound implications for our future as a country. And what we hear coming from the other side is sort of this feel-good rhetoric of, my friends want to do X, so therefore I'm for it, isn't that cool, check me out. And to me, that's not really impressive. It's not impressive to me that a young person, while it is impressive that they're interested in engaging in the dialogue, it's not impressive to me that we are met with sound and reasoned arguments with this sort of emotionalism. So if we could try to, for the rest of the debate, stick to the matters at hand. On the issue of separation of church and state, this is a concept that is not enshrined in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. It is a phrase that is lifted from a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to a minister at the Danbury Baptist Church, in which he talked about the erection of a wall of separation of church and state that existed. And the reason why was because of the founding of this country. You had 13 different colonies, each of which had their own religious denomination and identity. For example, Maryland was a Catholic colony, and Pennsylvania was a Protestant colony. And there was Quaker, excuse me. There was to be made an assurance at that time that there would be no prevailing religion that would supersede all of the others and enforce its will upon them. I'd like to read from James Madison. No man shall be compelled to frequent or support any religious worship, place or ministry whatsoever, nor shall be enforced, restrained, molested, or abundant in his body or goods, nor shall otherwise suffer on account of his religious opinions or belief. But that all men shall be free to profess, and by argument to maintain, their opinion in matters of religion, and that the same shall in no wise diminish, enlarge, or affect their civil capacities. Now, I think what we have here is a case where, again, we have competing interests. While I don't personally see any need for a new plaque or new description to come into place, I also respect, as Republicans do, the rights of the community standards of the smallest group of people in a living arrangement, that is a city, a community, or a town, to enforce and enact those community standards that they see fit are best for the lives that they want to lead for themselves. And if these people have taken it upon themselves to say that they want this in their council chambers, I don't see how this is a violation of anything in federal law, anything in the Constitution itself, or anything in the histories or best traditions of our country. The United States Senate opens each day with a chaplain's prayer. There are prayer windows and descriptions of in God we trust all throughout the Capitol. And I apologize for going over the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
But I think if we're honest with ourselves, we'll find that this type of issue is not an imposition of a state religion. It is not enforcing of anyone into any set of beliefs, but it is the same expression of the fact that our country is a country that has a belief in God, and that is the God that is independently your right to have a relationship as an individual with yourself. And that is in keeping with the best traditions of our country as Americans. And I think on the local level, that certainly should be respected.
All right, gentlemen, any argument on that?
Well, first of all, when you claim that the money, that's the Federal Reserve is a private institution, so that definitely is not going to be a symbolic representation of our nation's government. I think only 4 signers of the Declaration of Independence are known to be Christians, so it's really important to keep church out of our state institutions. I think when you place a plaque that has religious connotations in a government office or institution, you're immediately subjecting anyone who's there to that implication of religion. I think when you place in God We Trust, if an atheist works there, I think personally it would make an uncomfortable environment for them. So.
I think that what our counterparts on the stage left fail to understand is you can't put religion into government without getting religion out of it. any implicit or explicit endorsement of religion, and I'm sorry, but God is by no means a secular term. You are going to oppress people that don't believe in God. And you are not, and if you say, in God we trust, who is we? The community, the citizens? Are you excluding those people? How are they supposed to interpret that question? Now, you also brought up a number of things which were basically normative statements. It's on our currency, it's on this, it's on that. Those are descriptive statements, and they are accurate, but they are not prescriptive statements which say how it should be. And I will be happy to debate you in all places where In God We Trust shows up, because I think it has no place in the public square, as long as it's paid for by my tax dollars. And I do want to address one point that you made, which kind of speaks to our previous debate, that you said that our point was, my friends want to do something, therefore they should be able to. Well, I think that my friends should be able to do what they want, as long as it doesn't impugn on other people's freedom. And it really surprises me to hear people who represent a party of liberty, who are always happy to wantonly oppress the minority. And that is what they're trying to do with Prop 8, and that is what they're trying to do with Measure AA. They're trying to they're basically passively oppressing people that don't agree with them just because they're in the minority and they can't. That's wrong.
Before we go to counterpoint, let me just throw in, would you also therefore take out under God and pledge allegiance? Just to throw in a little more comment. That's not complex.
I just wanted to correct, do a little fact correction here. The Federal Reserve is not a private institution. It is given its powers by the United States Congress. The only reason that it is considered independent is its decisions do not have to be ratified by the United States Congress or the President. So let's stick to the facts. It is an institution that was created by the United States Congress, your representation, your government.
It's unconstitutional.
Why are we talking about the Federal Reserve?
Well, somehow In God We Trust on money is on a private institution, and we are talking about something that was created by Congress. I just wanted to make sure.
The Supreme Court ruled that Congress didn't have the right to create the Federal Reserve.
I mean, I think that I did respond to that. That's a descriptive statement, and it's not prescriptive. It says nothing informative about what we should be doing.
This false division between prescriptive and descriptive, if we're applied to Proposition 8 arguments, you would not be able to hold water with the claims that you're making. But I take exception to your choice of the word oppress, which you used twice, by saying that the statement that In God We Trust is placed somewhere is somehow going to result in oppression. A very particular choice of words. It might make somebody uncomfortable. Someone might not like it. But
are you comfortable with that?
You know, at a certain point in our country, we have to make decisions where individual rights come in conflict with the will of the people. And this is a very delicate balance. The founders considered this to great extent, which is why they didn't want an imposition of a state religion. But at the same time, they wanted a free exercise of religion on the part of the people. And this has to be kept in balance. And I think we're talking about the most minimum expression of some very generic representation of a belief of someone by saying In God We Trust. And this is something that's been with our country for a long time and is a part of our history that we're steeped in. And to sort of recreate that and dispose of it and say that it is somehow progressive and a good and a virtue for us to depart from that, I think is a very sad state of affairs. And if that is the argument that the Democrat Party is making, essentially you're the party that stands for eliminating God, redefining marriage, enhancing the number and the